Hello everybody, Caleb Mackey with another Life's Little Golden Nuggets video. Today we're going to be focusing on a book called Opening Up by Writing It Down by James Pennebaker. This one I had heard when I was listening to books by Brene Brown. She mentions him a lot and his therapeutic research about journaling or writing out thoughts and processes and emotions. So I wanted to check it out and I really liked it. And so here's just a few things that I noticed that I thought would be really cool to share. Firstly, if you are suffering from forbidden or unacceptable thoughts, you must allow yourself to think about them. And we'll just let that sit. Because usually what it is that you're afraid of when you think about it is also a key to the solution, that whether you choose to face it or allow yourself to feel it or change how you respond, maybe in a more confident way, I don't know. But your ability to think about it helps alleviate the suffering you're dealing with. It's not avoidance that helps. It's being able to face it that can help alleviate the suffering. Now, it can also happen other ways too, but that's just a big thing that he talks about in regards to writing it down, because if you're writing it down, you're thinking about it. And emotions may come that you're like, whoa, I haven't felt that for a long time. That's okay. Part of it is you've got to feel that and experience it and sit with it in order to achieve the result of relieving your suffering. At least that's one possible way. Number two, many people naturally cope well with traumas. A substantial number of people may not benefit from attempts to influence their coping strategies. It's critical to appreciate the large differences among people in coping with trauma. So it's basically a way of saying, just because journaling is effective in helping people cope with trauma doesn't mean that it's the only way to cope. Not only that, one person's junk is another man's treasure. There are coping skills everywhere, and they all can be effective in helping someone move on through a trauma. So just because it doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. Or if it does work for me, doesn't mean that you're going to experience the same result. And that's okay. So be able to listen and to hear people with their struggles and to say, okay, well, what is it that keeps you going? How do you keep getting benefit from this? Or how do you keep making it through? And you can find out some of these odd things that they're just like, I choose to believe in myself. And it's like, oh, well, all right, well, there's a key to the solution. If you want to face this struggle or this trauma and overcome it, you got to at least believe in yourself, and that's really important for you. Or if it's, hey, being able to take care of somebody else, absolutely. It may not always be, it's not the only way to do it, but that's one way that you can achieve working through and managing and healing from your trauma, is by helping others. There are a lot. Those are just a few, but be aware that if someone's trying to cope with it and they think that it's helping, be careful at challenging it unless they determine it is becoming so unhealthy that I can't handle this anymore and want to change. Other than that, use what they say helps and tap into that. 3. The benefit of talking about our problems is largely dependent on the social response from the audience. This ties into the 4th comment that he makes. Why do people often tell their deepest thoughts and feelings to strangers, but not to their spouses or friends? Well, according to classic work by George Sinnell, it is freedom from recrimination. So that idea of when you feel safe enough to express with someone what your concerns are and feel like they're not just going to jump down your throat and be like, what do you mean? That's stupid. Or, oh my goodness, we need to fix this now. And it's like, hold on. Being able to have a safe space where you feel like you're not going to be penalized for thinking what you're thinking, feeling what you're feeling, is so helpful for people. Even as a therapist, I still forget that sometimes. And I'm like sometimes jumping towards a solution or jumping for an answer that I think I see. And then, the client may be like, well, that's either they don't tell me, or sometimes they may say that it's like, I don't really think that helps. Or sometimes they may not tell me, but they may tell my boss, who then says, hey, they left a message just saying, you may not want to do that. It's like, oh, okay. So, yeah. But then he also provides a list of safeguards for being able to share and self-disclose your traumas and feelings with others. Because being able to do it is a great benefit, and that's why people can have such an amazing impact on each other through healing and community, is because we can be open and share our concerns with others. However, there are things you got to be aware of when self-disclosing. And when Dr. Pennebaker talked about it in his book, I was like, this is great. I would like to share this with counseling as well. But some safeguards. Self-disclosure will likely change the nature of your friendship. If you're talking to someone about your trauma and your issues, it is going to impact your relationship. Hearing your trauma can be a trauma for the listener. Just sometimes having, trying to share what's going on with you, it can trigger someone else. And so, I'm not saying to not share with people. You just also have got to be careful that it's like, are they ready to hear this? Sometimes there might be times that it's like, whoa, that's like a bomb that just got dropped and I'm not ready to handle that. Social blackmail exists. So being able to share things with people, but then to know I'm now giving them very sensitive and vulnerable information. Yeah, you got to be careful about who you share it with, when, at what time, and in what way. The expectations of the listener can affect the content of the disclosure. Yeah, that's why even therapists are guilty of this as well. The more that we try to keep a non-judgmental expectation and kind of a, oh, that's just information. This doesn't mean it is what it is every time, or we don't jump on it to say, well, now that you say that, we've got to challenge this, and we've got to fix this, and we've got to work with this. It's like, no. Being able to say, whoa, why do you think that? Tell me more about that. Okay. Just letting the story continue, letting the description keep happening. But if people have expectations when they're listening, whether it's, oh, if they tell me, then everything will be okay. No, just because you open up about a trauma doesn't mean it's done. It's an ongoing process, or at least that's what most of us in the psychological field believe. People's motivations disclosing their secrets are not always pure. Yeah, you do need to be careful with, if you're sharing your, the motivations are, I need someone to listen, and if you loved me, you would listen. And it's like, whoa, just because they love you doesn't always mean that they need to listen to you as soon as you need to tell them. Sometimes you've got to be able to prepare that and say, hey, I really have something serious that I want to share with you. Can we make time to talk about it? Now, I'm also, like, these are very vague situations, so take it as you will, but, it's always about being careful and cautious when you're disclosing and how it may affect your relationship, and what are your motivations for telling them, what are the motivations for the person listening, lots of things to consider. And then telling and holding secrets can be a maladaptive substitute for taking action. That's the other thing, too, is that similar to therapy. It's like, yes, having the safe space to talk about things is helpful in one way. However, if it doesn't lead to a lot of change in the outside world, then it's really not doing the job that we want it to. Even though therapy is very helpful, one of the main points of therapy is to lead to change, whether gradually or in very small ways or in big ways. But if it's only about just having that place to just vent, that's only a part of it. That's a part of the process. But the process also involves going from this into this. The rolling stone gathers no moss type of idea. And The perspective or point of view one takes is important in determining more helpful or adaptive thinking versus unhelpful rumination, worry, and distress. So let's just end with that. The perspective that you take is important in determining what you're thinking about and what you're feeling. And I would love to end with this because it's about the power that you have within yourself to impact how the conversation goes. And so I see this with couples. I even see it in my own life that if I'm already assuming and taking a perspective that I believe this is what it is based on how I'm feeling, then that's what I'm going to start exuding, and that's what I'm going to start projecting and putting into the real world. However, if if it's one of like frustration, then I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, well, here we go. I'm putting out more frustration. But if I try to maybe take a breath and say, let me try to be hopeful here. Let me just pretend that maybe I won't get the answer right now, and this is going to take a little bit longer, so I need to be more patient. Okay, what do we need to do? Even that little change is a little less toxic. It's a little less destructive compared to the first response. So remember the power that you have of your perspective that will influence what you think, how you feel, and what you do, and then how you can also change that and implement a new way, a new perspective, a new choice, the next choice that can make a big difference. And maybe even achieve healing in regards to how you work with your trauma, how you work with your relationships, how you work with yourself and your job, whatever that looks like. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, guys. This was great. Thanks so much for continuing to check in, but love you all and hope you have a great rest of your day.